Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope everyone is doing utterly spectacular, and thank you for joining us, whether it is live on the rewatch. For what do we got? 2/5 of the Cinema Squad here today to go ahead and chat about quite a few shows. Everyone, we have been spoiled with some good TV lately, especially if you happen to be a superhero fan. And I guess even just sci-fi fan, and what did you do? A good mixture of stuff, right? But we've been getting a lot of good TV shows. There are 4 in particular that we're going to be talking about. Something tells me if you clicked on this video, you probably already know the 4 shows that we're going to be talking about. 3 of them are even being shown within the pictures on the screen. Daredevil, Maul, if you can't catch the reference of the Oval Office, The Boys. And the only one that's not represented by a picture within here, good old Invincible. And each of them has had quite a uniquely, well, I won't say exactly, I was about to say like a positive remark here, but that's up for opinion, I guess, right? I think there's been a good season of all of them so far within this year, but that's what we're here to talk about, folks, is just the shows in general, break down some details, our feelings, thoughts, maybe some things that didn't make us happy, but as well as things that we did like. And rank them while we're at it, because why not?
Because why not? Dude, how amazing was it at certain points there? What was it, maybe 2 or 3 weeks where we just straight up had like 4 episodes. I remember at least 2 weeks where I sat down and watched 4 new episodes. Now, maybe I'd missed one or something like that, but I don't ever remember watching 4 shows in my life at once. But this is one of those rare times. Maybe when I was a kid and there was like a bunch of sitcoms or something, or I was like TGIF Friday or something like, oh, Urkel, yay. But this was like the first time, man, like where we had 4 solid shows. I'll spoil a little bit about my feelings on all of these 4 shows that I was looking forward to watching pretty much everything. And now here we are because they're all done. It's a wrap. So we can have like, again, guys, full on spoilers. We're gonna spoil, or because I mean, there were spoilers and thumbnails the morning of for pretty much all of these shows. Come on, YouTube, what's up with that? What's up with that? We don't need to.
Dude, what's funny, I don't blame YouTube. I guess I start blaming almost the other content creators, where it's like, guys, calm down.
When I say YouTube, I'm referring to to those specific. You know who you are out there doing that with the thumbnail. But hey, gotta get the clicks, right?
True.
That's why it's we have to.
But it's running a risk when you do stuff like that, right? We got to be respectful as far as I don't know what the proper time limit is, right? That would in itself, I think, could be a fun discussion of what is the true buffer zone to provide to allow people some time to breathe before you just start throwing spoilers down their throats. But with that being said, we're definitely, as far as this is no holds barred, right? We're definitely not looking to hold back. I mean, that would kind of go against the potential ranking that comes along with this here, and then just the discussion within that. But first and foremost, want to go ahead and I guess start the whole thing off by just mentioning, it seems like we're pretty unanimous in agreement about liking all of the shows across the board, which instantly makes me want to preface with, keep in mind, everybody, though we may be ranking some stuff, doesn't necessarily mean that there is bad within this group. There might be components of certain parts that were bad, but realistically, I will go as far as saying all 4 of these shows are solid, not just as shows, but the individual seasons. That's also, by the way, everyone, what we're kind of ranking more or less is the particular seasons of each show that just happen to be released within this time frame here. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump on into this. I think we started at the bottom.
So we're
started from the bottom. Now we're here.
This is number 4.
I'm sorry.
Oh, and I also want to say too, for the fun of it, because this is also the fun of it, I have no clue. I'm not we haven't talked about this very much at all, so I have no clue. Your number, I had no clue if you were going to even be hating any of these, because there's one show, and we'll get to it either now or at some point during the stream, that's getting a lot of hate, and I guess we'll talk about that, specifically the finale.
Well, and I know exactly what you're talking about already. And what's funny enough is, I think that might be where we start for myself. My goodness, my computer's freaking out here. Okay. All right, so ready?
Jason's number 4. I'm excited.
My number 4, okay, out of these 4 shows, the most recent seasons, again, everybody, not the shows as a whole, all right? My number 4 is The Boys.
Dude, we're starting off in agreement then, because that's my number 4 as well. So we are so far on the same page. We are. Yes, I have paper. You have pizza. Should I eat? No. So I will say this. I had a quick question, and maybe I'll throw it out to you. But you're eating, so I'll even answer myself.
No, go for it.
Did it stick the landing? Is the question. So you eat and think, and I'll and I'll just mention. I will say, did it stick the landing? Yes, for the most part. Why did it stick the landing? Why did it stick the landing? I feel like because it at least gave us something very definitive, very final. It didn't really pull any punches. Yes, it may have lacked spectacle. It may not have been like a grand final battle or anything like that, but it didn't really leave us hanging. It just it capped things off. It killed a major character. It killed a lot of characters, but it killed a major character, and it wrapped things up, and it gave us that little montage that we all imagined would be coming. And it gave us happy endings for certain characters that I feel earned it and deserved it, as opposed to just killing them off. I'm a little conflicted on the show overall, but I do feel like it mostly stuck the landing. I'm very curious to hear what your feelings on that and just the show overall, or anything you want to talk about in particular.
Yeah, man. So I also feel mostly, as far as like sticking the landing. So by the time it was all said and done, I was not sitting there feeling disappointed. And I also give them credit because I think ending a show ever is very difficult. To end a season in itself can be sometimes difficult, but especially when it's like, this is truly it. And it's also very unique because that you're not ending everybody's stories, right? Like, not everybody's dying. So it's not like we're seeing the end of everybody. So it's very unique of, where do I leave things off with these characters that feels like a bit of an ending, but also like a satisfying ending. Like, it's okay that you don't see wherever things happen to go from here with them. So with that being said, where I went into this last episode feeling like I have no idea how they're going to end this. I do feel by the time it was all said and done, it was like, okay, this did, for what it's worth, feel like an ending. An ending that was completely satisfying is where it becomes up for discussion, but nonetheless, it felt like an ending for sure. I think one of the biggest issues is they have introduced enough things, even just in this season alone, that then never really materialize into much of anything by the time the show is done and over with. Like, the fact that Soldier Boy was not even referred to in the final episode is a little just bizarre to me at the end of the day, right? Because he was a huge component of this entire season, and it almost feels like his only purpose of being there was to really hype up and advertise the Vought Rising show that's going to be coming out, right? The prequel in a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited for that. I think that Jensen Ackles is great as Soldier Boy, but my goodness, man, if you're going to have him be such a huge component of it, literally, we don't even hear anything. There's nothing, no acknowledgement. So he's just back in the tube and just frozen for the rest of eternity, it seems.
Yeah.
We never know. Right. That's just one particular thing that was like kind of on the top of my head of like, it's not ruining the finale for me. It's not ruining the show for me, but it is something that I think there's a couple of details that fall into that category of, did you guys just either forget? Did you have to consciously decide, hey, we know that we're not going to be able to address this, but we have to dedicate more time to other stuff? It makes me wonder, like, what was left on the cutting room floor when it comes to editing, shooting, all that type of stuff. I would like to think that there was more that they were considering to do, because if this all really was it does feel like it's weird, simultaneously satisfying and in lackluster at the same time. I wouldn't say that I'm overwhelmed or underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed.
That's a good way of putting it. So maybe this is superficial, but when we're just talking about just the final battle, it's just it behind us. It's just in the Oval Office. We don't break through those windows. We don't end up on the front lawn. We don't end up, there's a lot of, now that I'm thinking of it too, it's like Washington, there's so many iconic structures out there we could have knocked down and torn apart and really made this an epic battle. It was not that. It was confined to him. It felt very restrained. not in a good way. It felt very, very TV. I'm someone who also grew up loving TV and loving like shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation, or if it's horror shows, Tales from the Dark Side. In which case we'd get our one set and it'd be like, I hope you like this set because this is going to be where you're going to spend the next 25 minutes. And that's sort of what it felt like in a final battle. Like, I hope you like this set, which is an iconic, setting, obviously, and is historic. But wow. Yeah. It just surprisingly restrained, that entire final battle. And again, I know that that's a bit of that's superficial, I guess, but it's still, it's like, the scope of it. This is a show that I do think promised scorched earth, and I guess we weren't going to get through this stream without mentioning that, and you did not get that. Hell, I feel like that's been promised since day one on this show, like some kind of epic, insane insanity. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe you come away with this and you feel like, why do I have the sudden urge to go watch Independence Day? I feel like I need some disaster porn or something. Why do I feel like that I've been teased? But yet I didn't hate it. And I damn sure didn't hate it as much as what I see on some of these thumbnails. Like, Jesus Christ, the boys failed, flopped so hard. To each his own. If that's your legit opinion and it is what it is, and it's not just about getting the clicks, then fair enough. But I don't know. For me, I feel like that's a bit harsh, but I can at least meet the ground and say it whelmed. Also, is a good way of putting it. Whelmed.
Yeah, and I think that the one benefit of the doubt I can give, so this kind of proves as far as how much people may already be aware of what derives from the source material and what doesn't. I personally was not aware of this until after the episode was over. But apparently the reason why the whole final battle only takes only reason that it all takes place as far as all in the Oval Office is because that's what happens in the comics. I guess the whole final fight takes place in the Oval Office. I think from what I heard in the comics is that the entire White House gets obliterated. So I think that probably would have been understandable to see as well. I mean, considering the fact that, dude, he's using laser vision like it's no one's business. There's no way that's only going through the walls of that one room. It's got to be shredding up the rest of the building to some degree. So I would like to think there's more destruction outside of that, but I can respect the fact that it was contained, not because I wanted it to be contained. I would have rather it gone all over the place. That would have been great, at least outside or something like that. But because it's deriving from the comics all the way down to Homelander's death. So the way that he dies with the crowbar and the way that Butcher does that is ripped straight out of the comics as well. So
fair enough on that point.
Exactly right. You know what I mean? I'll give him credit for that.
Deviated, and it won't. And here it didn't deviate when I feel like maybe it could have or should have. I think that's probably all of our points.
I'm still very much in line with you on that 100%. I would have much rather. I think it's a missed opportunity, man. He does a really great job. Anthony Starr, my goodness, dude is a phenomenal actor. And his performance when he's giving the speech, where he's proclaiming himself as God to everybody. And excuse me, it's right at the very end where he starts to mention, he pauses at the part where it says, "I'm your father." Then you can tell he's having a hard time because he just had that interaction with Ryan not too long ago.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So it was very, very hard hitting for him. And again, he acts it out brilliantly. Now, with that, I thought that was kind of really setting the stage. He's mentioning all of a sudden he does this turn and he's like, but some of you will never believe me no matter what I say and blah, blah, blah. And then you see the psychics in the auditorium with all the people and they're starting to turn everybody red because they're marking the people that don't believe Homelander's God. I thought, again, this is all leading into dude, he's going to just annihilate a bunch of people. I still thought, of course, they're going to take him down. I think everybody is anticipating that for sure. But I thought he was going to really go into destructive God mode before he was taken down. In addition to that, I got to say this. I'm curious what you think about this because I didn't think about this right away. At first, I was just enjoying it for what it is. And then it got brought up and I was like, okay, that's interesting to think about. So the entire show seems to be built up around them, these regular people managing to find these creative ways to be able to kill these evil superheroes, right? So it almost feels, even though it's like very satisfying to see Homelander powerless at the end, right? There's no denying that that's just like a great final. Fuck you, man. You know what I mean?
Surreal. Like, it was fucking surreal. Him trying to jump and
nothing.
And it's just a jump like a child.
Exactly.
Incredible, surreal.
But with that being said, that does lead me to this, where I couldn't help but agree with this point that was brought up. So someone was mentioning, though, it's almost kind of like a shame that the thing that the entire show is building up to, and they've been showcasing how they can beat all these other heroes while they still have their powers. It's the fact of the matter of like, so you couldn't beat Homelander in a way, right? Like you had to take away his powers. There wasn't a way to beat him. And don't get me wrong, I have mixed emotions. I don't think that's fully fair to say there's like a critique, because at the end of the day, look, they had to beat him somehow. Okay. What are you going to do? But I do kind of see, as far as like, yeah, I guess it's a shame. So it's like they did, but they didn't. Like there wasn't really anything specific that they did to beat Homelander while he was Homelander. They had to make him not Homelander first, I guess. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but like, I don't know. Do you feel it's a valid point to even consider?
I do, because I hadn't considered it, but like, because it feels like a larger victory if you defeat fully powered Homelander. So now it's like a matter of like, what was a clever or inventive way to do that? Like maybe try to depower him, because that seems like the logical way. That seems like the common sense way. Like we just have to depower this guy and take him out. That's essentially what they do. That feels like arguably predictable, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think there's something to be said for what would have been another out of the box way to defeat this guy and get an even larger victory, because we defeated him at full power. But I guess, I mean, in the opening of the season, when we lose A-Train, he has that great final quote. And I guess that's just not what this was about, because his quote was something like, when Homelander has him, like right before he kills him, it's something, I typed it out. What was I so afraid of? You're fucking nothing. You're just an empty suit. Take away those powers, and what are you? A pathetic, weak, sniveling loser. So that's where this was going. That's what they were basically pushing. They foreshadowed it right there, and we see that. We basically see that in the end. We see it in because it's proven to be true. So A-Train got the last word. The minute this guy loses his powers, he's saying some things that I'm embarrassed to say on here. He's so quick to say, "I'll do this." And I'll do that, and it's like, okay, all right, dude, slow down. Why don't we? Just start
to the point where it's like
war crimes or something. It's
like, why do you even think that's the thing to do? Like, what out of all the things, do you really think that's what Butcher wants you to do? Like,
yeah, it's like, dude. I mean, he just wants to beat you to death. Like, you got to know that he's not gonna. There's no part of Butcher that's going to be like, well, I'm not going to do the accent. You guys are going to laugh. But like, but there's no part of Butcher that's going to be like,
Oi, let me take you up on your offer. Let me pop out me willy and let's get diabolical.
Well, the camera's on, and the cameras are on. And
do it right in front of the camera so the whole country sees.
That whichever way that went down, it was important that the camera's on, because the world needs to see Homelander for what he is. I liked all of that. 10 out of 10. All of that stuff was really well done. A little bit of a mixed bag, but again, I think that's why we both feel overall this was good. And maybe, who knows, maybe some part of us, if you like this show pretty much all the way through, if you're someone that's been a fan, it's a little bittersweet to see it go. So that there's always that aspect mixed in there. Yeah, but it is what it is. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. What did you think? We got some. I'll say one more thing about this, because I know we have a couple of other shows. We have 3 other shows to get to. We got some happy.
We're barely into it. It's not like we're overdoing it or anything.
True. Happy endings for Huey and and Starlight and Mother's Milk. I mean, we didn't get happy endings for everybody, but I think that was important, because you need some weight to this. Somebody has to go. Sadly, we lost Frenchie along the way, and but overall, were you glad with the happy endings to see some positivity in the show that's been pretty bleak and down and out a lot of times, and it's a satire of the world, but it is what it is. It's overall, it's been a bleak show with lots of loss. So this could have been a horrific ending. This could have been a bad ending.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it could have gone way more south way quickly. And look, at the end of it all, I am particularly happy that Huey and Starlight got a chance to have a bit of a happy ending. I think I can't help but kind of think of Huey right away first, just because the show starts. Realistically, when it begins, you are looking through the lens of Huey, and that poor guy goes through so much shit to the point where it's like I mean, they all deserve, as far as a happy ending, but I think
realistically,
I was very happy to see that like that all worked out. And then it was so touching, the fact that Starlight's pregnant, the kid is named Robin. I don't know if you caught this, but like when she flies away at the end, the part of the street that he's standing on is actually like right where he lost Robin.
There was a part of me that was like, oh God, are we gonna get like, are we gonna end on a bad note here? No, we're not. Okay, let's just go to the credits. Please go to the credits, because so you have your nice little everything's a big,
but I was gonna say, as far as with Mother's Milk, like that was definitely sweet too. So I mean, it was interesting. I wasn't expecting Ryan to go with him out of all people. That took me by surprise. I don't have a problem with it. I just kind of thought it was surprising.
But it makes sense with him going back to this sort of mentor position, being like a mentor position like that. I actually sort of like that, because I mean, he wasn't going to get that from Butcher, although Butcher tried, and that's sort of what get us. I don't want to get back to that, but that's it. That was kind of sad, bittersweet, but I think I like that he ended up with Mother's Milk. And I guess it does leave a little bit of a door open in case we revisit these characters in 5-10 years, and we pick up on Ryan's story or something like that. Does he somehow get his powers back? Right. Because wasn't he a natural born, soup? Like so who knows, but there's some room there to return to these characters if they want. But overall, I think we're probably done with this story.
Sorry, yeah, that came through. So yeah, he was one of the only ones that you're right. He was born as far as because he was just Homelander's kid. He didn't have to get shot up with the V. He was just born with powers. Which actually, I'll be honest with you. That's a great point to bring up, because here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I would imagine that it could still be argued that even though he was just born with powers, it's still because of the V, right? And then that blast that Kamiko and Soldier Boy shoot out, it's supposed to like eradicate all the V, I guess, within your system or something like that. But I do find it almost kind of bizarre. It's like they could have made an argument that Ryan would be the only one to be able to keep his powers because he was like naturally born with it in his system and he didn't have like V placed into him. I could see where people would say, Jace, that's stupid. That makes no sense. But I also think there could be some validity to that. Now they've already proven that he doesn't have powers anymore. But
yeah.
I guess they haven't. I don't know. Maybe they could surprise us.
There's room there. There's room there if they want to go that route. And I like that. Whenever you wrap up movie series, TV shows, I always like to leave a little bit of a door open. I mean, that's the reality of life. Whenever you leave a given situation, there's always a little bit of that door is cracked open for a possibility of some more story. I think that we get that here, but at the same time, I will say for the most part, they did a good job wrapping things up. This very much felt like a finale. It wouldn't make sense to just have another season after this at this point. It really wouldn't.
No, not with how they ended it. Yeah, I think the pacing of this particular season was not exactly. That's one of the things that why it's in last place for me. Because I do feel like episode 7 should have been episode 4. Right. And then I would have loved to see it play out just a little bit more after all that intense stuff was going down. Let it breathe for a moment. Instead of just this hurrah and all of a sudden it's over before you can kind of blink an eye a few times. But yes, I still was as far as pleased with stuff. I did want to throw one more thing out there, although I do feel there's actually quite a bit from realistically the season / the finale to talk about. How'd you feel about the way that Deep went out?
Anticlimactic. I feel like, or predictable.
Oh, really?
I would say predictable because they set it up and then they just straight delivered on it. So I guess okay, but just because I saw it coming, I don't know. Maybe that's what took away from it a little bit for me. But all the same, pretty satisfying. Half of me almost wanted to see him survive and just go on being miserable because he's been such a piece of shit throughout the entire show. There was never any redemption for this guy, although he had opportunities and chances to flip. He never did. He just remained a coward and he remained just a piece of crap throughout. So I wouldn't have minded him just kind of going on. And us closing off with him just sitting on the beach, like depressed because he can't touch the water. He knows if he goes in the water, he's going to get torn apart. There is a certain satisfaction, though, to seeing him get punched into the water and get torn apart. I just would have liked to have seen that executed a little bit differently. And maybe that's my main issue with that too, is that it's so quick and it's just like, he ends up with the thing to his mouth or whatever. And it's just like, oh, okay. All right. It's done. I would have wanted to see a little more suffering and more blood and guts. I'm a sick fuck. I would have liked to have seen a little more something grisly. That character deserved it.
So aside from even, because I agree, they could have easily made it right, like even more gruesome for him, make him really kind of like deal with some almost like torturous elements as far as like, go out like a little bit more.
And it doesn't need to go on like Saw style or
no, but yeah, like a more slow
on and on and on.
Like they're going out there.
A few arms, legs, entrails. Give me the works.
Well, here's my biggest thing is because it could have incorporated what you're saying into there. My biggest thing that I thought was a little weird was so he gets thrown in there. Now, granted. Like, obviously, the sharks, the octopus, the other fish, they know pretty instantaneously that he's in the water. What's that? That I always found to be like, how? How do they know that he just dropped in the water? You know what I mean? But okay,
it's cartoonish, man. But I'm gonna go with it. It's Samuel L. Jackson's out in the water, and
fish logic, right? Fish logic. But here's the other thing. So that's fine. They detect him right away. Whatever. And again, am I still satisfied with the fact that that's how he dies? Like, yes, I think a good way for him to go out. But here's my problem. Dude is basically Aquaman, and he can like swim at super speeds and like has like way thicker. Someone's pointing out he's got like way thicker skin because he was able to swim down at like the Mariana Trench and shit like that. So point is why was he able to get like penetrated by an octopus so easily? And two, why did he like swim like a little bitch for 5 seconds before he got taken out? How come he didn't like torpedo his way out of there? And that would have been cool as shit for like, dude, a 30-second to a minute or so scene. Just have him like speed swimming through the ocean, trying to escape. And then he just runs into some fucking like Kraken-sized, sea creature that's just like, you ain't going anywhere, Kevin. And then just fucking like holds him while a bunch of other sharks and fish rip him to pieces or some shit. You know what I mean?
There you go. It's same. We get to the same ending, but it's just a little expanded, a little more fleshed out, a little more tension, a little more like, oh, hey, maybe he's gonna get away. Maybe he's putting up a little bit of a fight. Even with Homelander, I saw that's where some people had a little bit of an issue. They felt that he didn't put up enough of a fight. It's like, he didn't put up any fight, but that I think was sort of the point there. With Deep, I think we could have gotten a little bit more. I'm a horror nerd, so I'm looking more for the blood and guts. You're looking more for a little more like story and a little more like of a build up there. But it all amounts to the same thing of things generally feeling like, okay, you did the thing. It just felt a little rushed, or it felt like it could have been done a little bit better. So the execution aspect of it. All right, fair enough. And I'm glad you brought that up because that was a big part of the show too. From scene one, this was the first character that sort of made us realize if you were completely fresh to the show and didn't know anything about the comics and went in blind, you start the show, you sit down and you get that opening scene. I'm not going to get too explicit here and Deep is sort of the first soup that we're like, oh my goodness, this dude is a because of the scene with Starlight. So it's like he's our first character to really be shown to us as like a monster. Actually, I guess A-Train is really the first one. I was
gonna say, technically speaking, it's A-Train.
Technically, right? But okay, so he's one of the earliest characters, I should say. So it's fitting to see him go in the last episode. I'm almost surprised he made it pretty damn far. He made it to the last episode. It really does feel like he could have died 100 times before this.
Yeah, no, he's just managed to just what is it? Those fish. It's the second Black Noir was calling him like this. He's one of those fish that just hangs on to other fish and just manages to like feed off scraps and survive just barely that way. Speaking, by the way, of Black Noir, I wanted to throw out that this is the last thing I should say for now because there's plenty of things with the boys I could think about.
I know. Realistically speaking, now I'm thinking this could be the whole stream. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess we'll do our best to keep it condensed here. So the last part though that I thought was super interesting is, do you know Black Noir's actual like history, storyline, what happens, and who he is as far as in the comics?
I believe because I looked into it a bit, out of curiosity. I'm feeling like I heard he was a clone or something of Homelander, which I found to be fascinating. But because that seems like a whole interesting story that would take the show in an entirely different place, I understand why they didn't go that route with the show. Am I on the right track? Am I thinking of the right thing? Was he a clone? He was.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the thing. Okay. I remember watching a YouTube video or something where somebody went into that, and I'm like, okay, I have to get my hands on like a trade paperback or something. I've heard mixed things about the comics.
From what I understand, the comics are not as good as the show. At least, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure that overall some things can be argued otherwise, but for the most part, it seems like people are in favor of the show.
Okay.
But I do think that for what it's worth, yeah, it's probably best that they didn't, I guess, at the end of it all. But I really am interested and intrigued as far as with that storyline, because what it is just like what you're bringing up. So he is a clone, but a much more messed up clone of Homelander. And he's basically used, I think, as they said, like a contingency plan, so that if the OG Homelander ends up ever like going against the grain or not following orders, that they would just basically take him out with the Black Noir Homelander. And eventually that happens. So eventually Black Noir Homelander kills real Homelander, and then he just takes over as Homelander from that point. But he's like way more sadistic and messed up than the original Homelander even was. So shit just gets even crazier. Now, I don't know in the comics if he gets replaced with another Black Noir or not. That part I don't know. Like how in the show we get a second Black Noir. But that's one of those where it's like, man, that would have been really cool to explore. And then when you consider, okay, if they're not going to do that, I think that character, just like a lot of the ones, he's really cool, right? Like they do a good job of just like making him really, really freaking cool. The second Black Noir had just enough of an interesting thing going on, and I didn't expect him to be like a game changer of the season or the show, but I felt like it was so like a fart in the wind to like give him this big thing as far as a storyline within the season, and then only for it to end the way that it did, right? Like there's the one episode where they're breaking a segment for the different characters, right? Like one segment's for Firecracker, one segment's for Sage, one segment was for Terror, one was for Black Noir in that episode as well. I just found it weird because it's like 2 out of the 5 characters, I guess, that they were doing it for ended up dying like pretty quickly afterwards. Like one of the segments for Firecracker, she died like the next episode or something like that. And then again, for Black Noir, they build up this whole big thing for him just to go ahead and kill him off pretty quickly. And not like that's bad. I'm not saying it's horrible, because it was still nice to see anything about them, but it almost kind of like implies that something else is like building up with these characters, just to be like, never mind. Well, I don't know why we gave them a little bit of spotlight.
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point there. Like it's almost like we're gonna mix this up. We're gonna mix in this character here. We're gonna kill him, but just to get you thinking, maybe there's gonna be something larger, and then they pull the rug out from under you.
Well, if it is misdirection, then that's fine, right? I mean, like that's okay. I'm not against that, and it's still entertaining. At the end of the day, what they did give in there was I was happy with. You know what I mean? But it definitely was a good season. Not my favorite season by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, still an enjoyable season. I've enjoyed, technically speaking, all the seasons of The Boys, and again, very, very bittersweet to have it be over at this point.
All right, well, good to hear it. And this was an interest. I was curious to see what your thoughts were on this one, because, like I said, we haven't talked about this much, so it's good to hear you mostly enjoyed this. All right, I guess we'll move on to the next one, number 3. I'll take this one as number 3, and I'm curious to see if it matches. So we were together on number 4, but my number 3 was a little show called Invincible. See, I feel like we should have had a thing queued up there, like
I know. We do, yeah.
And then dun.
Well, that, or we should have like a graphic to go up or some stuff like that. We got to be more prepared with this.
Maybe in the replay I'll edit something. Anyway, so Invincible, we all know that. Let's see, I had a little bit written up here about it. I may as well just give a little bit of context. This picks up season 4 of Invincible, picks up after the brutal Invincible War, with Mark Grayson recovering from his battle with Conquest. Obviously, we get a very gruesome round 2 in this season. And there's a looming Voltramite threat goes larger. Nolan returns to Earth. We get a bit of he sort of reunites with Debbie, but not really. Oliver steps further into the flight, and the story expands of course, into the full-scale galactic war alongside the coalition of planets. The season dives deeper into the Viltrumite society and introduces Grand Regent Thrag, the ruthless ruler of the Viltrumites, as voiced by Lee Pace. So again, super duper happy with this show. Overall, this was one you put me on to, dude, and I started binging it. I don't know, I think a couple years back. So I have to thank you on this one because I remember this was sort of on my radar, but you were like, dude, you have to watch Invincible. And I think I marathoned it so quickly that at one point I was ahead of you.
That could easily be it. Yeah.
So I'm guessing this wasn't your number 3, so we may be a little bit different here.
Yeah, this was not my number 3.
Okay,
no.
So we'll at this point we'll talk about it anyway. And I'm well. What number was it?
Actually, well, I was gonna say that instead of saying what my number 3 is, I'll just say what my number was for this, and then we'll just introduce like the numbers for the rest of it. But okay, this may come as a shocker. All right, I don't want to necessarily overhype things, and please understand this was a difficult decision for me. And I'm very happy to say that because again, these were all so enjoyable, but this was actually my number 1.
All right.
Yeah.
That's understandable. Okay. Because I found I made a little list of like things I like. And I found with this one that despite its placement, I feel like there was very little that I didn't like. There was I'll just say it real quick. There was one episode, and I hate to use the term filler because I don't think it was quite filler, but it's the episode where the hell episode. And I saw that other people online felt the same way with that being a little filler. I still like that episode, but that was maybe the one, oh man, you guys had me going. And now I feel like we're pausing and stopping here at a key point. And so many shows do this. Daredevil, the first season, did it with an episode with the bank episode. And a lot of people like that one. That was one that I wasn't a fan of. I felt like this was what happened with this show, and it threw me off. There was a couple other pacing things here and there, but overall, just it nailed it. I'll let you talk about this because that's my quick feelings on it. But this is your number 1, so please go at it, man. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So, man, I do agree. By the way, with that one episode, same feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, like same exact sentiment in the sense of I still enjoyed it a lot actually, and which is. I think just proves to show that it's nice that they can like switch it up and still provide like entertaining quality stories, even with like just different characters, and there's no involvement from the people that we're more familiar with. Nonetheless, I don't disagree at all in the sense of like, all right, hey, this was cool. What exactly is this in reference to everything else that's happening though right now? Like, isn't there a lot more serious shit that's going down? And like, we gotta focus on that, right? So yeah, that I understand. But again, given the fact that I still enjoyed it, I give him a lot of credit for that. And I think the one thing that I can say that I will say, the reason why it is in that spot for me, as far as like so high up top, I constantly am taken aback with this show as to how well it lands on so many different fronts. I think the action is just like incredibly breathtaking. The animation itself, I think people can always argue, is sometimes a little back and forth in the sense of like how great it is. But my goodness, that's I don't want to say it's nitpicking because it's not a fair thing, but it's nitpicking in the sense of it's still good action. It's still well done. It's still well executed. It's intense. All of the fights feel intense. And because of that, and then because of the storyline that is set in place, I feel the stakes. Like it feels like, dude, some shit is about to go down. It feels like if they don't manage to do this, there is going to be problems at hand. As opposed to certain shows, like you constantly have this reassured safety net where you kind of know, you know what? I don't know how, but I know that the hero is going to make it out of this, right? Like we have that kind of confidence we can just rest upon. This show, I don't feel that. I don't necessarily think that Invincible himself could die at any given moment, but like you brought up about the nasty round 2 with Conquest.
Yeah.
First of all, I cringed nearly the entire end of that fight. It's epic that how he's willing to just hold on to Conquest, right? Trying to choke him out that whole time. But dude, when Conquest starts pulling out his intestines,
It goes on and on, and and I was talking about like what I wanted to see in the boys. That's what I wanted to see there. That's what I want to see with Deep. A little bit of that. I wanted to see.
Well, yes, right. So that definitely they give similar vibes of each other for sure in that one regard. But I guess that was a perfect example to me of I felt the stakes. I literally felt in that moment of, dude, I legitimately don't understand how Mark is going to survive this. That is such a refreshing feeling with shows like these, because we're usually dealing with these larger than life characters where damn well no matter what goes on, they're going to be fine. And in some capacity, someone could make the argument that isn't it the same for this show? I mean, kind of, but you again, you feel the weight of the battles they have. They don't recover instantaneously. The battles themselves leave not just physical, but mental scars, emotional scars on them that change them as they are. Like Mark is such a different character for an animated show. He has developed and grown so much over these 4 seasons. And dude, as far as just the dynamic between him and his dad, so Omni-Man, I love that whole, as far as, the love-hate kind of relationship there, where there's like that mutual respect, but not sure how to feel about each other, but at the same time, like Omni-Man's really trying to change. My point being is, man, it brings so much to the table for a cartoon that I just feel like so many live action shows don't even get close to the amount of depth to something where, again, like I feel the emotional weight of what's going on, right? Like that show has gotten me choked up numerous times because of stuff that they do, whether it's just like they always pick the greatest of music, but it's usually the stuff that's happening alongside of it. So like whether it's a calm character moment about like just something maybe with a relationship, or if it's like these big epic scaled things that go down, I think they just nail just about all of it so well. I'm not going to act like everything is completely perfect, but from my own like subjective opinion, I have been so impressed with everything that they did this season. Wow. These guys are really just, they know what they're doing, man. I know, again, they've also got comics to be able to base the material off of. I know they also switch things up a bit too, though. So I just give them a lot of credit for really just swinging for the fences.
I agree fully. There is a maturity to all of these storylines. Nothing is handled nothing is hand waved away. You mentioned your relationships between like Mark and everything that goes down with the baby. I don't even know what we could say and not say on YouTube. That takes a very mature adult turn, and I think it's handled very well. Whether you agree, disagree, or wherever you stand on that issue. Wow. I mean, dude, I'm watching it and I'm like, this is in an animated series. Wow. I mean, again, like you said, it's based on a comic, but that alone, and then you talked about the father-son dynamics, all of that is handled just so well. And I don't have a lot of criticisms. And then we have Nolan at the heart of this, where there's like this redemption, and are you sold on this character? Are you like ready to forgive him? Because he starts off the series as such a fucking monster. And now it's like you feel it's genuine, that he genuinely wants forgiveness. He genuinely wants to be a good person. But yet it's like, dude, you've killed way too many people. You've done just horrific things. So you can't quite be forgiven. But it just brings up all of this. It's such a great morality play. And it forces you to start thinking like, where does this guy go from here? How does he interact for the rest of his life? How does he like function? Can he get back together with his wife? Do we even want to see that? Does he deserve it? Does he deserve any kind of happiness? Or is it just a matter of like, no, dude, you belong in a prison cell. I don't know how else to say it, or you should just die. He's
so
definitely
see, you're proving my point in a great way of like, I don't, okay, so
the depth.
Yeah, exactly. Right, the depth, man. Like there's just so many things that are missing that level of depth. The fact that everything you just brought up is a super fair consideration. We're talking about one character, right? Not that we can't do that about any of these other shows or any other show for that matter, but it is so nice to be able to see of like, dude, it just makes you really think. It makes you question, like, and it's so easy to just point the finger and immediately judge and assume of what we would or wouldn't do. But you don't really know until all of a sudden you're in that situation. And when you all of a sudden see this monster show this side of humanity, Although the first thought is probably like what most of the characters in the show is just this instantaneous fuck off. I don't buy it. Get out of here. Even if you do feel bad, you deserve to feel bad because you did a whole bunch of stuff. But then based on what they show, I think they do a wonderful job of showcasing like, but you know, what if someone truly is changed?
Yeah.
And how long do you hold that grudge?
Dude,
is it justified? Would you want that to be done to you as well? Like if you did something that was a unforgivable mistake, but then you truly did change your ways, your attitude and your outlook on everything, like would that be enough as far as for other people? Would you truly feel like you even deserve forgiveness at that point? Like it just makes you really question a lot of stuff on a moral compass that is so interesting to think about that I don't find myself thinking about with a lot of other shows.
Dude, thank you. And it's sparking all of those thoughts that every human being on earth can relate to, having a family member, a friend, someone close who's hurt them. Or maybe we've been the bad guy. And it's like, should there be forgiveness? Can there be forgiveness? How do you move on? How do you move forward from whatever has happened or from whatever horror has been done? I mean, this is taken more to an extreme level because it's based on a comic book and it's a cartoon. But I'm saying it's just a basic human level. We could all relate to this. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's handled. And again, you've already said it way better than me, but like it's handled with such maturity throughout. A lot of weight and just shoot. I might bump it up in my rankings at this point. As we're thinking about it,
you know what though? But it does lead me to ask you. It makes me curious, man, because obviously, right? I'm glad if it can kind of maybe see it from a different light, a different perspective. But you know, let me go ahead and obviously, without me continuing to just kind of like praise it like it's nobody's business. What had you initially leaving it at number 3 for you?
I think that for me, pacing is always a thing with a show. I brought up the one episode that sort of I felt like where it stumbled. There were certain points where I felt like the show was doing so good and hitting so hard that I just wanted it to continue, and it felt like it just paused or stopped. And I was like, oh my God, I just want you to keep going with this. And why isn't there some sort of like, I don't know. It just felt like it's pushing forward and then it stops. It's pushing forward and then it stops. That was just my general feeling. So I don't know. Maybe it would just play better for me on a rewatch. So it's sort of like this double-edged sword where it's pulling me in on all of these fun, interesting, intriguing storylines. The maturity and the weight is there for all of the story arcs and the characters, and we're going into, and there's so much depth. But then I feel like it's pausing and going off into like little tangents, and these are supposed to be character building moments, but it wasn't always working for me. It just sometimes felt like I wanted to just to another thing. So it's sort of there was a sort of series of, there was like a sense of a push-pull kind of thing happening with me as I was watching this show that I didn't quite get, I guess, from maybe the other two shows. But again, as we're talking about it, as I'm thinking through, this one might move up in my rankings because I feel like I've thought a little bit more about it, and I don't know, and I think it could play a lot better now on a rewatch, because a lot of that feeling of like, oh my God, I just want to see, will his husband and wife get back together? What's going to happen? She's pregnant? All of these things that kept me. What's going to happen with this war? Is Earth doomed? Mark is traumatized. Dude, oh my God. There's so much that they kind of throw at you. That's all good stuff. And then there's even other stuff. This isn't fair to the show. There's other stuff that I've heard about that happens in the comics that I'm wondering if they're going to get to it. So that's also, that's why it was a little higher. But yeah, man, when I look at my overall list of 5, a 4, 3, 2, 1, it was tough because it was just like, these are all pretty good, man. We could swap a few here and there, and it, like I said, that might happen for me.
No, and it's true. I know exactly what you mean. This was, I can't say I've done many rankings recently, to be fair, but this is like the most difficult ranking that I've had to do for quite some time, in the most positive of ways. Because when it came down to shuffling out, like, okay, why would I have this over that? And it's all for the most minimalistic of reasons. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there really isn't anything. Even, we start off with The Boys being in last place for both of us. Man, I could still safely say, but I love The Boys, dude. I'm sad it's over. Like,
Dude, I do top 10 lists, and I run into that problem where, other than, for me at least, when it gets to a top 10, and maybe that's where we are with this one, or maybe our number one seems to be it seems like the number one is always the thing you most feel strongly about, and then the rest are just like, boy, I don't know, on any given day I could maybe flip a little bit on these.
Usually, yes, right? Usually 100%. But in this particular case, as much as I feel confident.
This is a strong number one for you.
But yes, but at the same time, believe me when I tell you, though, I'm so open to the thought process of like continuing to mull it over and think about it and then consider that things could change. I don't know if I would necessarily change up on this being number one, but the rest I can see shuffling around a little bit. Maybe specifically, I guess, just 2 and 3. I don't really think that the boys would change up as far as for me. But again, I'm so happy that like all of these are good, right? So even something at the bottom of the ranking is still good. When it came down to as far as Invincible, and you mentioned about the whole part with Earth, I couldn't help but just kind of squeeze a comment in of, dude, that is yet another great example of I felt the weight, right? When they ended the penultimate episode, and it ends with Mark saying, like, they're trying to figure out where would the Viltrumites go? Where would they go? And he's like, they went to Earth. Dude, I literally sat there and I felt the despair. I felt the shock and awe and the panic of like, oh my God, they might have already fucked up, or he might get there and it might already be fucked. And even if it's not, you still don't feel safe.
And it's the looming threat.
And they did such a good job of the whole dude. The fact that he's like, tripping out, seeing Thrag like in different places, killing people, and just for it to, again, as far as another deep dive into like the human psyche of all of this type of stuff that normally just kind of gets glossed over or just never addressed in the first place. And it was done so well of like that. Yeah, man, your brain would be fucked. You'd be thinking about that all the time. You'd be constantly on edge in the worst way. You know what I mean? Head on a swivel, never being able to relax, because that there's this looming doom that, as he then mentions, that he's kind of like responsible for, more or less.
Yeah, that's where this show leaves us in a really bleak. Hey, we're gonna be like on your planet now. We're gonna just kind of blend in with you guys, and if you don't like that, it's gonna get ugly. Oh, goodbye, everyone. Good night. It's just like, oh my God, this is bleak. This is bleak, because it's a matter of like, when is this going to explode? Will it explode? Which direction is this going to take? So, yes, very well done. I think my question on this one was like, did it leave you wanting more or something like that or whatever? Not really. I was pretty 100%. Satisfied to that, and yeah, that was it. This is another one. Yet again, I feel like this is a whole stream if we want. Did you have more on this one? I think we probably do, but or do you want to scoot on to whatever? I think you were next. Was it me or you? Was it you?
I guess if I said the boys first, and then you threw out that Invincible was your third. So I guess technically I'd be next if we were keeping in that line. And no, that's fine as far as to like kind of bounce forward. If something else does come up that's dire.
All right, absolutely.
Awkwardly shoehorn it back in here.
We'll awkwardly shoehorn it back in. So you're number 2 now.
Should I? Well, here's the thing, though. So your number 3 was my number 1, and I know at this point it's just completely fucked as far as how this goes. But does that mean should I say what my number 3 was?
Yeah. What was your number 3?
Okay, so
is that what we're doing? Does that make sense?
Because again, so we both had the same number 4. Yeah. We now know your number 3 and my number 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think we should just sort of keep it in order. So we'll just go to 2. The thing is
here's the thing: is we got to eventually get all of them out of the way. I'll say what my 3 is. Go ahead. We can already eliminate. We know that my 3 is not your 3. So whatever my third is either your second or first at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead. Go.
My 3.
Yeah.
And it's man. It feels weird because like. Again, this is so damn difficult. I almost don't like this because it implies that there was like, what? This was your third? Are you crazy? But Daredevil.
Wow.
Is my number 3.
Okay. Daredevil was your number 3. All right.
Before I said, because I want to explain myself, but I'm curious, where does that fall in the ranking for you?
Yeah, 2. It was 2 for me.
And dude, that so makes sense. I could easily say in my list, out of my ranking, my 2 and my 3, which at this point, I guess now we know what the other one would be.
We're about there. That's okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, my 2 and my 3, I could kind of picture fluctuating a little bit.
Yeah.
But let me at least just give the slightest bit of context, and of course, I want to hear your thoughts on it all.
Yeah,
so the reason this ended up at number 3 for me was solely because of this. So The Boys, again, I feel as though just it was great, but it had just enough, if dare I say, flaws, things missing, pacing issues. It was the one I had the most open kind of complaints about, I guess, as to why I felt like it could easily be at number 4, even with how much I enjoyed it. Then I thought about as far as the rest of them. And now, Invincible, I enjoyed like through and through, from front to back. There wasn't really ever a point where I would consider it like missed a beat, even with the filler episode, right? And I agree, it's a filler episode.
You do? So wow. I wouldn't even know if I'd be that harsh on it, but fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one where I was like, that's why it was number 1 for me. And then I'm thinking, okay, between Daredevil and Maul, the one thing I'll say, and this is kind of spoiling my thoughts towards Maul, but I'll purposely just stick to Daredevil more for a second. I also didn't feel like there was ever a weak point within Maul per se, right? And I think that helped because they released the 2 episodes at a time. So even if it could be argued that like maybe one episode didn't do as much, there was a second one to kind of help kind of fill that void and introduce something that was very worthwhile. And it just really hit a lot of good notes for me. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get to is this. Daredevil, I think the way that it concluded was chef's kiss. The second half of this season is utterly magnificent. It is such good TV. It is such good Daredevil. It's such good proof of that superhero shows don't need to be immediately labeled as superhero fatigue and all that other nonsense or whatever. And it's not even that the first half of the season is bad. It just took its time, and there's good parts and other parts that I'm kind of like whatever on. So I think that's the only reason, right? It's minor complaints, but it's just due to that. If this first half of the season was as strong as the second half of the season for Daredevil, this could easily be my number 1 or at least strong number 2 for sure. But yeah, it's really just the first half of the season for me that kind of makes me bring it down that little bit in the rankings, even though I think it ended, again, amazingly.
Okay, gotcha. I guess for me, this one played just more evenly and just kept me more engaged, and that's why it's a little bit higher up my rankings. Bullseye too. I will say, oh my God, this character just went up, in terms of just like status and just, I guess I'm going to echo what a lot of people I've seen online say, like, you can throw out a Bullseye show at this point for me. I would check it out, or one of those movies like we just got recently with Punisher. I think that could work, or special presentation, whatever you want to call it. He was a large part of this season, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. And this was a character that I often describe that I despised because of who he killed, but they somehow brought some kind of a little bit of a redemption almost to even this character, and that played beautifully with Matt Murdock and all of the Catholic stuff. As get a Catholic here, so you grow up with that, and you think about these ideas of forgiveness, and that I think is where this show shined, because we get a little bit of depth with that. We got a whole show, we had a whole episode where Matt is sort of with Bullseye, and it's this idea of like, can I let this go? Can I forgive? I thought all of that was done really well. I want to credit this show for having a little bit of maturity with some pretty serious stuff there, because this show is a little bit more, it is comic booky. It does lean into that, and I like that, but yet it doesn't like shy away from some of the more serious stuff. Like I talk about when you were talking about morality, that's a play, because Karen just wants to get rid of this guy, and I understand. So we have, wherever you stand on these things in life, there's a character in this show that represents that.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, man.
Or you Tyrant, you know what I mean? Or like if you go back to Boys, not to are you Butcher that just wants to pop the guy's head open? I mean, it depends, man. It really depends. But I think Daredevil handled all of that really well.
Yes,
I have mostly just praise for this. I really do, and maybe that's why it ended up so high. I will throw out one quick question, and and let me know your thoughts on it and anything else you want to say, was Kingpin. I have seen online fatigue, whatever you want to call it. Are you tired of Kingpin yet, or you feel like we're good with him now? Where do you stand on that? Just curious.
Yeah. Well, let me, because I'll get straight to that. The only thing I want to bounce backwards to, though, is the part that, in giving it praise with the dealing with topics very well, not just the mature topics, because I think that that's another great point, right? The whole morality and, what is right or wrong to do and how do you justify things. As far as if you are to cross a line that you've never crossed before, is it worth it? All that type of stuff, right? They do a really good job of having that argument played out through good dialogue and action within the season. They also do a really good job of really doing some great commentary on subject matter that I think is, well, hear me out, subject matter that feels played out. But I don't mean like they should stop doing stuff like this. But this is exactly what I mean. It happens with Daredevil and Kingpin. It happens with like Batman and Joker is another perfect example. It could be said about a lot of heroes and villains. The cycle of, dude, I'm just gonna keep, putting you in jail. You're just going to keep breaking out and doing bad stuff, and I'm going to keep getting you and putting you back in jail. You're going to keep breaking out and do it. How long do we do this? Like the city, not just the city, everyone around us in our lives is suffering because of this, and we're just going to keep doing it. They're like these bad, like crack addicts that just can't put the pipe down, as though that's probably not the best analogy, but you get my point, right? Like they can't get away from this thing that is really bad for them is all I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like they should just, and I love how in this season, they actually start to address that, but very head on, right? Like they're not shying away whatsoever. There's direct discussions about it of like, how long are we going to keep doing this?
Yeah.
You're never going to stop. I'm never going to stop. So what do we do here? Right. And I love that in all of these other projects where normally there's not many just like level-headed discussions. There might be like some interrogation scenes between heroes and villains, right? Where there's like a calm discussion, but it's not like they may be talking in a calm tone, but they're not being like respectful with each other. I feel like what's great is Daredevil and Kingpin. They are completely unopposed, even with them disliking each other so heavily. They can still like somehow manage to have a mature back and forth, and actually without like, anybody screaming or insulting or anything like that, even though they're beating the living shit out of each other. And again, they are so on polar opposites of like the mindsets of how they go about it. And yet they can still like try to not talk it out as though they are trying to be like reasonable with each other, but still talk reasonably, which is amazing that they can pull that off so well. And it doesn't seem cheesy. It's as a matter of fact,
not at all. I think it's well written.
It seems believable, right? Like it would eventually get to that point and everything. So man, I love that they do that. I think they did such a good job of it. And again, I love how it just kind of reaches the climactic point that it does, where look, the only end result is get the fuck out of New York, because if both of us stay here, this ain't changing. And so I like that it basically kind of brings it to a point like that. And then with that being said, I feel like that actually kind of beautifully transitions to your other question that you threw out there about Kingpin. And, are we at a point of getting too much of him? Are we sick of him? I mean, look, man, at this point, we've had literally 5 seasons of Daredevil with him as the villain. He was not the main villain, but he was a component within the Defenders series. He was more or less the main villain or a big antagonist within the Echo show. He was a component within the Hawkeye show. You know what I mean? So it's like, I could easily see where someone would turn around and be like, man, oh my gosh, we see this fucking guy everywhere. However, for me personally, I don't want to see him right in everything. But I do think like if you use him sparingly, and he doesn't always need to be the main villain, but like I am not on the side of the fence of, hey, enough's enough. When you have somebody that is that perfectly cast, Vincent D'Onofrio is the spitting image of Kingpin as far as like he looks like he's ripped straight out the comics. the guy's performance on top of that, right? So instead of just looking like it, dude, we all know he brings like, there's a reason why it gets imitated so much in a funny way online. It's because it's really good.
It's
That's
resonating.
usually what drives from, right? Like people doing big impressions like that are because of really good performances, and his performance is stellar. And look, man, you know, it kind of makes me feel like I'd almost rather have, I'm not going to say I'd rather have too much, right? But I'd rather just give us as much of it while you can, because eventually, I don't know when, but eventually, dude, he's not going to want to do the role anymore.
Yeah.
And eventually, number two, they're going to reboot things anyway. So even if he did want to do it, let's say until he was 80 years old, bro, eventually they're going to want to get a new Kingpin.
Yeah.
It'll be a while, right? But like, and that will be a thing that's like kind of inevitable. And you know what? If that's the case, that's fine. I understand that's how like the world works. But then give me as much of him as we can see right now, because it almost starts to make me think of things like, I don't want to say he's as good as Kingpin as what I believe like Heath Ledger was as the Joker, although I don't think that they do really fit each character. Like,
interesting.
I actually think, to be fair, I think Vincent D'Onofrio fits Kingpin more than Heath Ledger fits Joker. But I only say that because Heath Ledger had his own unique interpretation of the Joker. I'm not saying he doesn't fit the character. Yeah, right. It's just he had his own version that like is completely different from what I think is normally associated with like standardized comic Joker. Whereas
put down the pitchforks, guys. Put down the pitchforks and listen to the context.
Yeah, I was going to say, because my gosh, you're talking to someone, by the way, that is like a stupidly large Joker fan. So like, you know what I mean? Like,
I feel like I remember you doing a Halloween thing once or twice that may have been Joker related.
Been two different Jokers on Halloween streams.
Oh my goodness! I do wonder if you have a little bit of, because Charlie Cox also has a very he gives a very memorable performance that I feel like you could do a take on. I almost wonder if maybe in the Halloween thing we'll see a Kingpin or a Daredevil from you. Kingpin could be fun because it's implying a fat suit, and I would like to see you in a fat suit. I don't need the fat suit anymore. I'm working on my own natural fat suit over here, but
maybe I'll know what. No, and then I'd have to have the ball cap too.
I'll do Kingpin, and maybe you do Daredevil at that point. I'll save my head. As you can see, I don't have much going on my hair now either. So,
oh my gosh, ready for this?
I'm happy to still have the hair. So let me. Oh, look at this. We got we both got Batman. We're both rocking Batman shirts too tonight. Look at that. I got my Dark Knight shirt here, and hey, look at that. Ha!
Ready? I hear Wilson Fisk he's locking up random citizens. Ah! There you go.
There you go. Oh, what do you want?
Was that not? Could you tell, by the way, that was still me? I wouldn't.
I should have closed my eyes.
Charlie Cox.
And I would have been like, who's we're airing Daredevil now? We're gonna get hit with a copyright. That's how good it was. No, we would never get hit with copyrights here on Cinema Squad channel.
Never, ever, ever.
Anyway,
but hey, man, this makes me think, though, right? To jump backwards on into it. So, like, you asked the question in the first place. I feel like I basically made myself clear. Maybe if I could just kind of finalize.
And I'm with you on it for the most part.
Yeah, it's the only thing I wanted to finalize.
Good stories and let us enjoy the ride. And let's.
Yeah, because the last thing I wanted to bother saying about it, and then I'll get off my high horse here because it's been a tangent.
Dude, talk.
Is the fact that when I was relating him to the whole Heath Ledger Joker, all I was even trying to get at, like my main point of bringing up Heath, is I think it goes without saying that everybody would want to see a lot more of Heath as the Joker. Yeah, I think I can say that a lot of us probably would appreciate if we could live in a world where maybe we would be having a discussion on stream of like, hey man, have we seen like enough of Heath as Joker or what? Like, because they kind of have him like he's just everywhere. He's in everything. Like, I would love if we had that much content of him. So yeah. Again, I know it's a stretch. Like people may have but the opinions that differ between the two performances are not relevant here. What's relevant is the point of when somebody fits the character so well, I would rather get them to be doing that as much as they can. Like I said, until they either are desiring to get somebody else or that the actor themselves doesn't want to do it anymore. So I'm so happy that we've seen as much of them. And even though I will love to see a different villain for the next season of Daredevil, I am not going to be upset at all if Kingpin's included to a large extent in there.
Okay, and from what we know, I guess minor spoiler thing, I think there have been some set, leaks that have seen him, right? On because they're shooting season 3 now. Also, I want to say thank you to the creators for the show for cranking these seasons out in a time where we have to wait years between seasons. Like you and me and John, like we were like teenagers, I think, when we were talking about Ahsoka. And here we are now, still waiting on season 2, still waiting. Dude, I think it's coming out for 2027. So anyway, my point being, thank you for cranking these seasons out and going by us, they're still quality. Hey, Sin is in the chat. And also Dan was in the chat too earlier. So I just want to say hi and thank you to Dan. And I want to say hi to Sin in the middle of work. So I can't stay to listen while live, but I'll leave the tab open to help the view stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate it, Sin.
Thank you, Sin.
Thank you very much. This is our fun discussion and also our excuse to shoot this shit, which it's been a while. We need to think of more reasons to shoot this shit. We really do.
You know what the best thing is? We don't need a reation. That's what the best part about shooting the shit was. We just literally shot the shit and it didn't matter what it was.
Lots of shit was shot and still needs to be shot when it shit. All right. Anyway, moving on to our number one. I guess, and it's me too, right?
Well, no, again, so like I've already mentioned my number one technically, right? So now it's just at this point it's
we only have one show. But we only have one show left to discuss. So
exactly, right.
So my number one is Maul. So the question is more like where did that fall in your rankings then, Maul?
And 2.
It was your number 2. Okay, so we're sort of on the same page with that one as well.
Yeah.
Maul. Hey, first off, I want to say one thing because for Maul, it did a thing that I don't think anybody talks about too much. But Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord was the title of the show. I love that it gave a subtitle because I'm not the biggest fan. We'll just keep it Star Wars of when it's just called Obi-Wan or it's just called Ahsoka. I love when we add on like a subtitle. I don't know why. I feel like it gives the show a little bit more character, a little bit more of an identity. Let's see, just to give a little bit of context on this. I mean, we already know, but oh boy, I lost my notes on it. But anyway, this show takes place, after the events of what was that? Did we lose something?
Just Sorry, I lost like connection for a second.
Oh,
and I couldn't help but express verbally.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You know what? If you're watching this, then you know Maul. Let's just dive into it. I'll just talk about how much I love this show. We're bringing back a character that, for me, was dead. For all intents and purposes, and for lots of people of a certain generation, was just gone. Along the way, George Lucas brought him back. I'm not going to go into the whole history of it, but now he's back, and my God, is he back and better than ever. And just killing it because the point of this show is basically about the rise of Maul, who's still dealing with the trauma. He's still dealing with betrayal. He still has vengeance in him. He's still dealing with loss of his brother. I love that we're going back to that. But this is basically his rise, to become a criminal overlord. I love this story. It's such a dark, grim story. And it also brings back in the Empire in a form that I love, where it's not Saturday morning cartoon Empire. It's vicious, nasty, fascist type of piece of shit Empire. This is why I like them when they're threatening, they're evil. They're not over the top, ridiculous, goofy evil. They're just the right amount of evil. This show was like basically perfect for me. Basically perfectly. Is that a weird way of putting things? But again, not a lot of bad to say about this show. The animation was just top notch. And I love where it left us. I like that it had some twists and turns. We'll get into it more, but I'll just let you throw out your thoughts on it. What were your thoughts? This was your number 2, so we know you loved it as maybe not as much as me, but there was a good amount of love for this one too from you.
Oh yeah, no, and honestly, this is where, like, please understand, I probably do love it as much as you. It just so happens that Invincible just hit every single note for me, and then it's funny, man, because it's like, oh, so Maul didn't hit every note for you. No, it really did. I kind of feel personally like more impact on different things, like on emotional level, on again, the stakes of everything or whatever. Like there's just more that I kind of get out of Invincible, like as a whole. But with that being said, man, that sounds directly as though like a negative towards anything else, and it's so not. Maul did a great job of it. It is the epitome of what I think is a perfect example of that's the way that you show someone who starts on the light side go and be seduced to the dark side. Okay. It was so well done. And granted, I know everyone could be like, oh, what do you mean? What about Anakin Skywalker story? All right, granted, right? That's the OG story. I get it. But besides Anakin's tale, this was incredibly done. It was so believable because I think so many other shows, like, forgive me because I don't want to take this as a huge opportunity to just try and shit on something else, but I'm going to call it like it is, man. The turn that took place at the end of the Acolyte show is a absolute horrible. Forgive me in case if you liked it, I'm so sorry, okay? Because obviously everybody like whatever they want to like. But in my personal opinion, that was a horrible representation of how you showcase somebody starting on the light side, then turning to the dark side. It was not believable. I didn't buy it for a second. It didn't feel earned. It didn't feel justified. It made little to no sense. And it felt like also a harsh overreaction to a very, just small situation, if you will. Like, it's something that I could see why it was deeply emotional for her as a character. But as an overall, it's like, I don't buy it in the slightest. Now, part of it was maybe the performance, but it was the story overall.
We even had a lot of the same ingredients, right? Because you had a Jedi Master there, you have a Jedi Master here. Everything here, I'll be simple about it. Everything here is done right. Everything there is done wrong.
Well, and again,
in your opinion, or could have been done better. Just
yes, nice. And you're 100% correct, because mind you, not only is right, there's the Jedi Master in both situations. Okay, so there's that.
Similar ingredients.
You also have a dark side Force user that is slowly, trying to seduce said, young Jedi, right? But it was just showcasing like the stranger in the Acolyte. I think he's probably, and I think most people would agree, he's probably like the best part of that show. He is the most intriguing character for sure. He actually isn't that poorly done. Again, between the performance, the writing of the show as a whole, I think, is horrible. But at the same time, he's actually one of the most like uniquely written characters, I feel like. And again, is not terrible. With that being said, I don't feel as though I don't think he does a believable job in to the point where I can genuinely feel like, dude, I see why she would go inside with him now. I can see that. I don't see it at all. I could see like there being a lot of mistrust and just kind of like tension between them, because there's just not much there. The relationship's barely developed, if you can even call it a relationship at all. Whereas Maul and Devin, who eventually will become Darth Talon, that is so it's just so organic as far as like how it feels legitimate between them. Right? Like, there's nothing that I think just seems falsified or fabricated. Like, I can fully buy into the fact of she doesn't want to deal with his shit for the majority of the season. And it's believable that that's the case. And by the time that she slowly, and they do a good job of it, slow, right? Like, it's planting the seed. She just kind of, it's bled into it very, very just little bits at a time, where she starts to be like, yeah, but Maul made a pretty good point, though.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can't be thinking like that. And she's like, but why are you telling me I can't think like that? It's just logical. And that's the thing, is the writing within this show is gotta be one of the most underrated things out of all of like Star Wars is, I think we can agree, man. Star Wars is not normally known for very well done, prominent, in-depth writing, right? Like, the scripts are usually pretty simplistic, if you will, for the most part. This was like Shakespearean. Almost every word that Maul spoke was like on another level, and it was so, he was just doing nothing but just bringing up solid logic and good points left and right, dude. Like, when people are just like, oh my God, let the man cook. Dude, the whole season, it was just like, let him cook. Let him cook. Keep cooking. Keep cooking, man.
Dude, thank you so much. And you know what? And you even see that you see that sentiment online in terms of the writing and the quality of this show. I haven't seen whatever. I haven't looked for it, but I have. Usually, I'll just see it. Like I talked about how the boys got pushed back. The boys specifically the finale has gotten backlash. I haven't seen much. I haven't seen any from Maul. Like Maul was a failure. I haven't seen those thumbnails. I haven't seen those articles. I haven't seen those tweets or whatever. So I do think that there's at least a universal feeling like, all right, this show nailed it. This show, and like there's so much shitting on Star Wars, but it's like we have things like this. We have things like Andor out there. So in terms of writing, in terms of quality, it's like, come on, like just these things alone. It's like Star Wars is still in the fight. It really is. Mandalorian and Grogu are out there right now. I'm hoping for the best with that one. I'm looking forward to checking it out. But just keeping it on topic and on discussion, I'm with you, dude. They just knocked it out of the park with the writing on this show. They knocked it out of the park with the story arcs. And we haven't even gotten to the big thing yet. Looming. This show delivered and thankfully surprised me on. I was hoping this was coming. Where am I? But was pleasantly surprised when we got there. I go ahead. You go. I'm geeking. I'm over geeking out.
No. I know. Well, so am I though, right? It's hard not to with this one
because now it's the stuff we wanted to really get into.
But here's what I compliment the shit out of the show because of this. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's nice, like really nice. That even though that was a scene-stealing moment, right? Like that was easily like the most wowing thing of the season, but it didn't need it.
You know what? I would agree. That's crazy, but I would agree with your craziness.
That's well, because that's me complimenting the hell out of it. That's how good I think it is the fact that I think that the story itself of just who they introduced was juicy and fulfilling enough to the point where even if that never went down, sure, someone would be like, oh, it would have been cool if they did something like this. I'm just saying how nice it is that the show doesn't feel like it needed that, right? Whereas I'm sure we could agree there are certain shows or certain seasons of shows where it's like, you could tell, dude, they were like really banking on the fact of, hey, you know what? Maybe we miss a mark here or there, but people are really going to like this at the end, and we're going to wow them with this. This was a great example of like, you have a really good cake. It doesn't need icing. Yeah. But how about we just give you the most fucking fire icing that you've ever tasted in your life on top of an already amazing, spectacular cake? That's really what it was, right? Like the cake itself would have been just fine. I would have never even noticed that you didn't put icing. But holy shit, the icing that you just threw onto this took it to such another level that I can't even be able to like to comprehend how much I'm dorking out over here.
Yeah, dude. And they did it. Vader made his entrance. We got our little fight, what we wanted to see like for fucking decades now. Let's face it. This is what we wanted to see. We've only seen it in comic book form in Star Wars Infinites from like 10, 15 years ago. It was like a what if type story. That's the only place I think I recall seeing this, and maybe it's been done in fan films. But now it's canon. Maul and Vader have battled. We've seen it, and he didn't say a word. And
dude, the whole time, he never says anything.
Yeah. I don't know if people are conflicted on that or not. I landed on. At first, that was throwing me off, but then I was like, oh, we're gonna just go the slasher route. We're gonna go the silent, deadly killer, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers route, right?
Bro, it fits. Think of it this way: like if you break down the psychology of it, Vader has nothing to say to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the true feud in that battle is not between Vader and Maul at all, right? Mm-hmm. Maul may look at it that way because he's like, well, when he starts to piece together who he is, which by the way, I love that he doesn't know who he is right away.
Yes, yeah, that's some fun nerd stuff to get here, and I'll let you talk too, but yeah, because I want to go into like there is a history between Vader, Anakin, Maul, but
yeah, because Maul very well knows who Anakin is. That's been just like in the last season of the Clone Wars. It's the whole big discussion between him and Ahsoka is, he knows as far as like what's going down, but he's never seen Anakin is Vader. He doesn't know what went down on Mustafar, so he has no idea what's going on here. And that's the thing is, like, by the time he's in the Vader suit, he is so unrecognizable to everybody else, and even other Force users can have a very difficult time sensing that that's him, because there's barely anything of Anakin that remains. So I love that he doesn't even know who he is. But even when he does start to piece it together, excuse me, think of it like this. It's really only Maul would maybe have a little bit of a grudge against Vader, because he's technically his replacement, right? So I could see where he would be a little like upset about it. Vader, dude, this is just a mission to Vader. This is nothing personal. There is no, like, he has no invested thing as far as with Maul. Someone could try to make the argument of, well, maybe Vader's upset because deep down he knows that Maul's the guy that killed Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon was originally.
That's the nerdy weeds I was going to get into. But
the thing is, though,
he killed his master. That great history is there, but this is a different.
But I would argue otherwise, though, because the big thing about Vader as a character is he is on all levels. Fuck Anakin. Anakin's nothing to him. Anakin is, by all intents and purposes, a different person to Vader, right? Like, he believes Anakin is a different person. He believes he killed Anakin Skywalker, and he is now like a fucking caterpillar that has gone through its metamorphosis and is now a butterfly type of thing. So my point being is, if someone were to say, well, maybe he was upset because Maul killed Qui-Gon, why? Because that's something Anakin would be upset about. And he doesn't fucking identify with Anakin in any way, shape, or form at this point. So that would really make no sense, which all the more points to, why is he going to speak to him? He doesn't have anything to say. This was simply, this was simply a mission that the Emperor was like, yo, all my Inquisitors are falling flat on their face, and I no more fucking around, because it's the Emperor that cares. He's the one that has the grudge against Maul. He's the one that gives a shit if he actually kind of lives or dies. So again, it all makes sense to me. It's so, like, I don't want to say poetic, because maybe that's bleeding too much into it, but it just makes so much sense as to why Vader doesn't speak, because he doesn't give a shit. This means nothing to him. He's just on a mission. For Maul's perspective, I love that it is this like existential crisis moment for him, because he's just got this realization of like, this is so much more than I thought it was, and I am so much more out of my depths than I originally thought I was. And now he's also realizing how much he needs that apprentice of his, because he can't do it by himself.
And his battle against Vader, dude, it's not much of a battle. It's what I was happy with it, but he's completely outmatched. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to see that, but I was like, you know what? No, this works. And before I forget it, because you brought on a great point about like this Vader doesn't. Here's Darth Vader. He doesn't care who Maul is. Silent killer. This is a mission that also works and is brilliant here, because it doesn't undermine the ongoing beef or grudge that he does hold against Obi-Wan. That's one thing that he does hold on to that a bit, to the point that over in the Obi-Wan show, the Emperor is the one who sort of snaps him out of that. He's like, we're done with this now, right? At the end of Obi-Wan. If there's one thing that I think that show did right, was that final scene where he's like, okay, yeah, we're moving on. And I think that puts us in a good place with that character. So well done on that point. But here, again, slightly younger Vader, and I think you said it best, like with how he approaches this silent killer. Let's go. And yeah, that other stuff, that's more for us nerds to kind of think about. And there's some fun history here with Qui-Gon, because it is fun. I would almost like to see that touched upon, and Vader be like, I don't care. What I would like to see him sort of whatever that, if it comes up in a future conversation. I don't know what season 2 is going to bring. This might be it for Vader. I have no idea. Maybe he steps back. I don't know. That's also that I don't know where this show is going to go from here.
Yeah, they got to be careful with it, for sure. They really got to be careful with it, because I'll put it this way: we know the outcome of both of these characters, right? So the risk that they run is, if they do have him encounter Vader in season 2 again, they have to do. They basically have to do this. They have to give another runaround example of why would Vader yet again fail? Because here's the thing: we are okay with seeing that every now and again, right? Like, for example.
This is the fun gray area, but you have to be careful there.
Exactly, because this is the risk that we're running. So think about like in Rogue One. It's one of the most iconic Vader scenes ever, even though he's only in that one part of the movie. However, that's him failing. He doesn't get the fucking plans to the Death Star that the rebels stole, right? So he fails there. Now it leads directly into, episode 4 or whatever. But that, focus on that point for a moment. That is a failure of Vader. Then consider this, right? He comes in, he goes after Maul. He whoops Maul's ass, but what happens? He fails the mission. He doesn't get Maul at the end of it. Maul survives. They need to be careful. Oh, and I'm sorry, also once more as far as with Kenobi, right? So inside of the Kenobi show, he manages to like confront Kenobi and yet again doesn't manage to do enough to be able to win. So the problem here is,
why we have Inquisitors? We have Inquisitors for the failures. We have Inquisitors.
Yes, because that's the point.
They're not as cool as Vader.
Yeah, because you can't do that too many times. The more and more and more you do that, this whole image that we have done a great job of building up within pop culture of Vader being like the epitome of a fucking badass of a supervillain, right? You are going to diminish that and degrade it if you just keep showing like, well, but dude, but he fucking lost here and he failed here and he failed here and he failed here. He can fail. It's okay. Everybody's going to, especially the bad guys. But I agree with you when you squeezed in about that's why the Inquisitors are there, because they are a threat. But if they fail, it doesn't as an audience make you like all of a sudden question. You'll be like, well, maybe there's an even deadlier Inquisitor out there, or well, but there's fucking Vader. But once again, dude, once you start putting Vader in the mix, God forbid they actually have the Emperor come and fight Maul again, but that doesn't happen to win. Eventually you start to be like, if these guys are the top elite of the evil force, why can't they even get this shit done? And then it starts to become like a bit too much of a runaround. So they got to be careful. I'm obviously stoked about what they include in season 2, but but I think that's just something where it could be great and it could be running too much of a risk at the same time. And then real quick, forgive me, probably not real quick, but I have to jump into like, you talk about the fight. And, I'm right there with you in the sense of I'm glad with how it went. I think that makes a lot of sense. At the end of the day, I would love to see Maul hold his own somewhat. But there was an interview. So I'm going to try and forgive me, everybody that may be watching this. And if you've also seen the interview, I'm going to not try and word verbatim say it, but kind of reinterpret Sam Witwer's message. Huge shout out to Sam Witwer. He does the voice of Maul. And just so much. He's such a iconic part of the Star Wars everything at this point. I don't even know how to say it. Not just lore, history, characters, everything. Like that man is a legend, and please protect him at all costs because dude, it's so great. And he was doing an interview that I'm trying to bring up where he was describing the fight between Vader and Maul, and he was actually doing a great job of breaking down and explaining why it goes the way it does and why it's believable. So like you would kind of think that from someone that voices the character that maybe they would try to cheesily defend the character, or maybe he'd say something like, well, look, Maul didn't have his coffee that morning and he hadn't been sleeping that well or whatever. No, dude, he just calls it like it is. And he says, there's a couple things to consider. Number one, Maul's fighting style is much more based on agility. Vader's style is brute force. So he mentioned, he's like, so when Vader swings at him and their lightsabers clash, Maul quickly realizes, I can't compete with this. Like this is more than I was expecting and more than I can handle. Just the strength of it. Then you mix in the fact that the hardware side of things, they both at this point they're largely mechanical as they are physical beings, right? Like flesh and bone beings. So Anakin, of course, is mostly robot at this point, right? And then you have Maul, who the entire bottom half of him is robot legs. Well, he brought that up into play as well. I didn't even consider this at first. He was mentioning that, Maul takes the damage to his metal legs. Like Vader happens to get him like the hip or whatever. And he brings up, he said, Maul's legs were made by someone that I can't even remember who, but they're not like some fancy technology. Vader's whole suit, top to bottom, is the creme de la creme of what anybody could get, right? It's like the highest dollar amount that could ever be paid is what he's rocking on a regular basis. So that's another thing is like you consider the robotics, the advancement in robotics, I should say, on Vader's side in comparison to, Maul takes the one hit at the hip. No wonder it's such a crippling thing for him. Dude, it's not like these are really great mechanic legs. Yeah, so a lot of things that
he's very grounded. He's very grounded. His approach to this. I love that. That's a great quote.
Yeah, it's just, and it's all like makes the fight, I feel, that much more interesting, and also just that much more. It makes you appreciate how much they think about that stuff. Like that's the type of thought and care that I miss going into Star Wars. That I think again, it doesn't feel like there's as much of that. Forgive me, everybody. I know I've already brought it up, but like if I had to jump back for the briefest of moments to like the Acolyte feels like, let's just put a cool lightsaber fight in here because people will think it's cool. Whereas this one was like, no, this has depth, this has meaning, there's reason. And oh, by the way, we really care about the choreography. And we don't just want to make it look cool. We want to make sure we understand why. We want to know the why. Why would this character move the way he does? Why would Maul not be able to hold his own against Vader? Why would Vader not, talk to Maul? All those things I know had to be considered. And you could feel that in the show. There's so much care that you can feel throughout the whole entirety of it.
It was so well done. I'm still nerding out over the fact that we just got it, because I wasn't expecting it going in, but as I'm watching the show, it does dawn on me. And then specifically, we get one scene where we see like a little bit of a hologram, and it's a question of like, oh, wait a minute, are we going there? So I was just happy to get it. I was happy to see it well done. And I mean, and I'll get you, and I want to get, because I think I can nerd about, and I can nerd out over just this aspect of the show alone, Vader versus Maul. But like, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on some of the other supporting, because this is another thing I liked about the show. It made me care about other supporting players that like we didn't know this detective who really, speaking of coffee, we didn't know this detective who has a thing for coffee and his little coffee cups all over his desk and all this, and his son, and we have the new Jedi and a new apprentice in the mix. And I found myself caring about all of these characters. They did a good job sort of fleshing them out and getting us into them and actually giving a shit about what the hell's going to happen with these brand new characters. Because you go into this just about like, oh, Maul. Okay, great. Oh, Maul has a gang. I don't know any of them, but okay. But even them, we get to know them a little bit. But mostly it's our heroes that we get to know. So what's your thoughts? You think they did a good job fleshing out the rest of the cast for the most part?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, right, well, you're bringing up a solid point.
To be fair, you also already said that the apprentice. Yeah, you gave credit to that earlier. But the detective, I wanted to hear your thoughts on the detective, because we lose him, unfortunately.
Well, and so like him, the new Jedi Master, like you said. So a lot of like, as far as side people, what they're doing a good job of proving in that show with these characters specifically is that you don't need to know who everybody is, nor do you need to know everything about everybody before you even get into the show. That's what the show's for. The show is to show you who these characters are and for you to get to know them and eventually care about them a lot. We've unfortunately become so accustomed to just most of what we see is projects based off of very well-known IPs, which means you are, generally speaking, going into a lot of things already knowing who these characters are, already having a huge backstory on them, a lot of history with them, and there is something nice to that. But there was a point in time where all the things that we are so familiar with to this day and age, right, the things that we can't imagine living in a world without, there was a point in time where they were all brand new, that nobody knew who they were, that it was the same thing. And it just goes to show that if you just manage to write stuff the right way, if you actually care, you put true care into what you're producing, then you can manage to have just as relatable characters that resonate with you, that you just tend to maybe not identify with as much, or end up liking as much as these other established characters that you've known for years past, but that you eventually could be like, you know what, but like, dude, I really like this character. And the captain in this case, right, is something where, man, he was just a cool enough, unique as far as between the voice, his particular attitude, the way he carried himself. He really did or I should say, the show did a good job of making him stand out enough to where, like, dude, by the time he has his heroic sacrifice at the end, you feel for him. You want him, you care about his relationship with him and his son to the point where it's like, you want to see that mend. You want to see that work out for them, even though it's like, again, we don't know who they are realistically. There's not really much of a reason to care, but they do just enough to be like, yeah, but I don't know, but I'd like to see it work out for this guy.
The right amount. Let's go a little bit into the nerd weeds, because you triggered something in my rusty old brain. is he gone? Is our detective really gone? Because we don't quite see the body. I'm gonna say yes, but I think they left the door open for a maybe. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that you put it exactly the way I'd probably say it. So I think he did. I think he went out, but at the same time, obviously, like you said, they are opening up the doors like in a perfect way to, if they wanted to incorporate him in season 2, look, they would have to somehow like introduce, okay, but then what the hell happened, right? Just because you walked in there and we didn't see your body at the end does not mean it would have been easy to get out of there. You were going into a bunch of hellfire. So how did you make it out of that?
Yeah.
But they could introduce a way. I don't
maybe we get a half robot version of him or something.
Well, yeah, right. That actually would be kind of as far as like poetic there at that point. But I will say this: I hope that they don't. Because
I think I'm about the same.
There's just something to be said about you got to know when to let things lie. And sometimes what makes a character so enjoyable is that you only got so much of them. And there should be sometimes this feeling of longing and this like lingering of like, oh man, I wonder what they'd be doing in this point in time. I wonder how they would help out with the situation. I'd really like to see them back. Sometimes it's healthier to be left with that feeling as opposed to this fucking guy again. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll even say like this, not even if someone were to say, oh, this guy again, but it's the fact of the death. The death is such a prominent act. And when it's a heroic sacrifice like that, you're shitting upon the sacrifice at that point. Basically, if he were to come back in season 2, forgive me, but it really kind of just completely craps all over what he did at the end of season 1 there.
Because that was
it still worked.
Meant to be that. Yeah,
exactly. It was meant to be that. And here's the thing. It also like you start to then crap upon the character development of his son. Because that obviously has a huge impact on the son that's probably going to shape and mold as far as what his character is going to become.
I'm assuming we'll go back to that character. I mean, we have to. We don't know really. I mean, I'm assuming we will. Yeah.
He's still with them at the end. You know what I mean? I think that probably means that we're going to see a little bit more of him at the bare minimum. But yeah, I think that again, like you're kind of just like taking away a lot of what would have happened with him as a character if you just bring his dad back. Like, oh no, it's okay, he's good. So it's fair to say we didn't officially see, so we don't know. But I kind of, at this point, as much as I like his character, hope they don't bring him back. Not because I don't actually want to see more of him, but for the sake of the story, I don't think it would be healthy to bring him back. You gotta, again, like I said, know where to let things lie sometimes.
Yeah, dude. And let's also keep in mind, this is Star Wars. We jump in and out and back and forth these timelines all the time. We're right now talking about a show, and you and I could talk about this show. So 3 a.m, the star of the show is Maul, a character who we've seen go already years ago in Rebels, right? So we know the end of this character, and yet look at how much story we're getting. So when you take any character and you say, oh, that character's dead, it's like, this is Star Wars. That only means that there's another 10 years worth of stories about them if you want to go that direction.
So yeah, that's hilarious to say as far as that's super true. That's like a great detail thrown to the mix of like, yeah, no, there's bound to be more to tell. But then the other thing I was going to throw in is like a facetious comment is if he would have fallen off of a ledge, then I would almost guarantee you he's alive. But he didn't.
Yeah, that's a rule with most movies, and
no, that's just a rule within Star Wars. There are think of how many people have fallen off a ledge in Star Wars and are still alive. Okay.
So Palpatine's the first one that comes to mind. We're here, so let's nerd it out. Yeah, so we have Palpatine. That's the one, right? So keep going. Maul.
So okay, well, yeah, Palpatine, right, is easily the first. Maul.
Yeah.
Fuck. Now I felt like I had more ready as far as hold on.
But I feel like you're right. It's just a matter of thinking of other ones. So I guess now you can't throw Mace Windu.
Oh wait, I got us. Hold on, real quick.
And that's just fan wishes. Although, and Samuel L. Jackson, has also said specifically to your point, like we've seen characters die before and they've come back. But let me see. Let me try to think too without giving too much dead air here.
Wait, I'm telling you, I got us. Hold on.
And you know what though? I will also say, I just want to throw this out there, because it's in my notes. Are you looking for it now? But 2 boots.
No, I got it. I got a good list for it.
Have a list. And let me just say one thing real quick about 2 boots. because this is basically the Fredo of Star Wars, right? Because he kind of snitched and basically brought down hellfire on an entire goddamn planet. The show was good enough that they sort of even redeemed this snitchy droid. I love it. I love it. You know, I still wouldn't trust the droid. I'd still probably stick him.
I'd reprogram that motherfucker.
Converters or something. But
I would reprogram that son of a bitch instantly.
Yes, he's just
boot. I would say a boot. You getting the reboot at this point.
Thank you. This is why we need to do this more often. All right, let's hear your list of falling Star Wars characters, please, before we get out of here.
So I was gonna say this will be a great way as far as exactly where I bring this to. I think a funny close, if you will. So I will go through all this. Now, some of these I actually wasn't even anticipating. I'm not gonna lie. I did use the aid of AI to get the list. I'm sorry in advance, everybody. Sorry in advance.
Yeah, we lost a link to look this up, so please listen.
So falling off of a legend surviving happens constantly in Star Wars, but here are the major and clearly confirmed survivors. Okay, so again, this one I wasn't even expecting, but Luke Skywalker falls down the Cloud City shaft and the Empire Strikes Back and survives.
Yes. Yeah.
So now that one I wouldn't think of on the list right away, because I think what I was bringing up is people that fall off a ledge and seemingly die.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, Palpatine is the big one. Yes,
but I guess technically, from what they're saying, that Luke could be an honorable mention here. So this one's Vader falls down reactor shafts and into deep drops multiple times across canon. I don't know when, but I'm guessing maybe in comics,
novels or comics or something like that, or ChatGPT is hallucinating. I'm not too sure.
I was gonna say. So I'll narrow it down. Instead of just reading the entire list, I'll point out the ones that I confirm myself. Right?
Okay, all right, yeah, good enough.
So Emperor Palpatine, like we said, so that's for sure. Darth Maul, like we said, we got those two right there. Yeah. Let's see. As far as I guess this is kind of Boba Fett falls in the Sarlacc pit and survives. That's kind of as far as reminiscent of going.
I'm gonna allow it.
We'll allow it. We'll allow it. Let's see here. Because some of these again, I feel like I don't know if this is exactly where I would kind of place my bets here. Because they're starting to bring up do you remember Moff Gideon taking any? So he did surviving major drops from combat in The Mandalorian. That's what they're claiming. I'm like, I don't know about
claiming that. I feel like I remember him. I thought I remember him going out in an explosion. It's been a couple years since we've talked about that show. I feel like was it Mandalorian season 3? There was a bunch of clones, and my brain is wishy-washy on that one too. Well, you know what though? To be fair, we have big enough players that to keep that idea afloat. I think.
Yeah.
Idea.
No, honestly, even with these
falling and seemingly dying and then returning, and even in the case of Palpatine, again, that's a somewhat recent return. Question. We won't go down that rabbit hole about whether anybody liked that return or not, but it definitely counts for the purposes of this discussion. He damn sure came back.
Well, 100%. I'd say that since that's the case, but then we might as well consider Han Solo alive and well out there somewhere.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you said it, because I was going to say he landed on some kind of a platform, and just before that planet exploded, he got out, and it's just a matter of paying Harrison Ford enough money, and we'll see him in episode 20, The Return of Rey. And that's enough out of me.
And if anybody wants to say, if anyone wants to go, no, guys, he couldn't have, because even though he fell off a ledge and people survived that in Star Wars, he got stabbed by a lightsaber. First of all, Maul got cut in half by a lightsaber, and he survived that. Okay. And second of all, as we now know, according to recent Disney projects, lightsaber stabs are not lethal anymore.
Dude, right before the stream, I got stabbed by a lightsaber. I have a headache. I'll be fine. I'll be at work on Monday, and Monday's Memorial Day, and I'll be at work anyway. So
just honestly,
happy Memorial Day, everyone. Yeah,
you're right. I'll put it that way. So just take a Tylenol and you'll be good.
Yeah, I'll be fine. So
yeah, you're good. You're fine. Yeah, that's.
I love that most every discussion we have, no matter what, it always ends up on Star Wars. It really does.
Well, hey, this one, at least it was very fitting for. Obviously, it could have ended up on any of them, depending on the flow of the discussion there. But, man, I think that was a so we had different rankings for sure. But
we did.
At the same time, what I love about this is it doesn't seem like that we're really like far off whatsoever as far as opinions on any of the shows at the end of the day.
No. So for those looking at us for a hardcore battle, sorry to disappoint. It is what it is. Maybe you have to tune in for the next one when we'll like violently disagree on something.
At least we'll pretend to, just for the sake of your
pretend to. Yeah. There you go. We'll pretend to, and we could stab each other with lightsabers, and we don't have to worry about getting hurt.
Or instead of us duking it out with each other, instead of like fake arguing with each other, we could just fake argue with the audience and be like, you guys are fucking crazy for liking this. Why do you like this? This is nuts. This thing sucked. This show sucked. You like this? Something like that.
I will never understand that, but well, I guess again, if it's for the clicks, then
yeah. That's the point. It's for the views.
Yeah, it's all for the views. Dude, it's been a pleasure. I think we've hit on everything that we wanted to. Great ranking for those of you who tuned in and watched. Thank you so much. And for those of you watching on a replay, I'll promote the hell out of this on a replay because it was an awesome stream. Yes, and definitely well worth listening in. Thank you so much, man. You have the final word. Thank you, everybody. Oh, and I also want to give a quick plug because last night I was on another stream with Grande and we talked about the trilogy of terror. So if you're listening this long, please go over to Grande's Graveyard and check that out. Over on my channel, I have a Night Gallery review up right now for a great Rod Serling written episode called Escape Route. I highly recommend checking that out. And this guy over here will be returning, of course, for another Rubber Duckies. I'm already looking forward to that. Please check out our friend Sean's channel, Lost in the Real. Please check out our friend Upside Dan's channel. He's still doing his thing. And John is still out there too. He does a podcast every now and then. And hopefully this guy gets back to it too at some point. Man of Movies podcast.
I'm trying to keep up with you with the banners.
What was that?
I was trying to keep up with you with the banners as you were saying everybody's stuff.
Good luck keeping up with my brain vomit. Go ahead, dude. Please have the final word, and then we'll ha. Sorry, I just had to get that out. Ha. and then we'll get at it, and then we'll get out of here.
Absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much. I will just quickly echo Anthony's sentiments there about right. Make sure you go subscribe to his channel. So go check him out at Fever Dreamland Theater. He has got absolutely, without question, the best breakdown, reviews, detail sharing about everything of Twilight Zone that you could ever imagine. So if you thought you liked that show, you don't even know until you go as far as check out his channel. And then, of course, I'm glad, man, that you've been dabbling into the more live stream side of things as well, not just with us as a group, but as far as with other people there. So yes, go check out his stream with Grande's Graveyard. And then on top of that, I would say that, right, I'm going to shout myself out here. It's been a minute, and it's also been like a repetitious conversation with this. But for what it's worth, everybody, so between live streams on the Cinema Squad channel itself, and then actually things that I won't make any promises or even put a timetable on it, but just in the sense of like knowing that things are starting to kind of get back into the mindset of making things happen again. Just for whatever that's worth. I know it's super vague, but I am looking forward to the fact of like things starting to kind of funnel back through and bringing you all more stuff on my own personal channel. So if you'd be so kind, I'd always love for you to go check that out. And then last but not least, of course, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to the channel that you're watching right now. If you happen to be sticking around, if you enjoyed this conversation, if you're, someone who's always checked us out, my gosh, thank you so much for being a returning viewer. We really appreciate as far as just always listening to our banter. But then if it's someone that, you just kind of caught this out of nowhere, then thank you for sticking around long enough to hear me even say that. And by all means, right, if you've enjoyed it enough to listen up until this point, then we would greatly appreciate you subscribing so you can make sure you hear all of the conversations we have moving forward, because this is just one of many. I know that Anthony and myself will be, as far as gathering back together, be talking other stuff. I can definitely, as far as give a heads up, there's a lot more as far as really great shows, really great movies that are just coming out from this year alone that we are going to be making a huge effort to be doing streams on regularly, whether it's multiple shows at a time like this or individual shows. Sometimes streams will get, their own dedicated shows. I know that we'll be having also a mid-year 2026 stream as far as on the Cinema Squad channel. So keep an eye out for that, everybody. I'd say that's the next big event for us.
Yeah,
just a
like
good
that'll
talk
happen
about,
no matter what.
Yeah, talk about our favorite, movies with everybody as far as our top rankings of films from the year so far. So definitely looking forward to that there. But other than that, this is just, I'm super happy that we got a chance to go ahead and nerd out for a little bit because, again, as I started off the stream, I say this very much on purpose repetitiously. We have just been spoiled as far as with these shows within these past couple months. And it almost feels like there's a bit of a lull now that they're gone.
Yeah,
you know, it's
I'm
like,
feeling
oh,
it
man.
now. I'm feeling it.
But if anything, it just made it so easy to go ahead and have this big hurrah talk about them all at once. And heck, who knows, right? We might even have more future discussions about them to some degree because there's just so much to say. And we obviously have, it's only us. There's 3 other members of the squad that could be sharing their thoughts when they eventually get around to the shows. We just happen to beat them to the punch.
I love it.
But other than that, yeah, man, you know, again, thank you as well, right? I appreciate as far as always getting a chance to just go ahead and shoot the shit with you to any extent, my guy. But especially with this type of stuff here, I'm glad that we purposely held back opinions within the group chat until this point so that we didn't know too much of what was going on. Makes it that much more entertaining, I feel like. And I guess, yeah, until next time, everybody, that's all for now. So thank you for being with us. We appreciate you. We hope you were able to dork out on this stuff just as much as we did. And until next time, you take care, everybody. Take care, everybody.